Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Leanne Dow-Weimer. She is a MBA and marketing and operations leader. She's in B2B and B2C podcast host. Her podcast is called the Marketing, the Science of Marketing Strategy podcast. And yeah, today we're going to talk about startups, about scaling from zero to one, marketing strategies, and maybe fractional roles in the middle of that. So, Leanne, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Leanne Dow-Weimer. I am the host of Marketing, the Science of Marketing Strategy podcast. And what I do is I provide either startups or mature companies that are acting like startups the intentional strategic marketing that they need to grow their revenue for exceptional results, putting the customers at the center of what they're doing instead of just doing marketing for the sake of marketing.
Right. And yeah, tell me about your business itself. Seems that you do some fractional role stuff and you use the podcast to get a couple of clients from that. What do you do nowadays?
Yeah. So my podcast is meant as a micro learning, micro mentorship experience where I am not using it for one to one leads. I do not have a guest and then pitch to them to be a client because that alienates people. That really makes them feel like they're just a plug and play or a number. And instead, I use my podcast to one, have deep conversations. Two, to learn from the experts, and three, to make real, authentic connections with people that are also seeking to have these conversations. And how this plays out into furthering business needs is it's expanded my network exponentially. It's helped me to get introduced to other people or referred into roles or clients. It's helped in so many ways beyond just we spoke for 30 minutes and then I gave you a pitch.
Right. I don't think that alienates people. I think, like if you build trust from the get go and talk to people and then tell them about what you do, I think working with someone ultimately is like the ultimate form of trust, right? And that's how you actually build relationships and trade even more value because I do it extensively. I even have a company that does that. And ultimately, you mentioned it, right? Your network. So ultimately, you do it for financial well-being, which is great because we live in a capitalistic system. I think there should be an angle about that because ultimately we're doing business. Doesn't stop the fact that we can have a nice conversation, learn, refer people to one another. Right? I've seen this approach scale very much as well. But yeah, like your format, it's longer as I understand. It's like 1 hour or so.
Yeah.
What how do you prepare for an actual podcast? Like how do you come up with questions and see who's a good fit for your show?
Yeah, absolutely. And coming back to your point about how you don't think it's alienating, is it really depends how it's done and with the transparency and getting those repeated touches which build trust and credibility, right? So coming back to that, I just wanted to address that real quick. So for my podcast, the way that I find people that are a good fit is looking at what the work that they're doing. We do a pre-meet so that to see if there's rapport, and that also helps build touches to build the relationship and to get alignment on what we're going to talk about, what's off limits, what they can expect, almost like an onboarding. And then from there, there's about 6 discussion prompts that I stick to, mostly to frame up the episode for consistency. But at the same time, they're just prompts. And the goal of my podcast is to have an organic conversation where the listener feels like they're sitting in the coffee shop with us and they're part of the conversation. So it's not polished, it's not perfect, it's a lot of sentence restarts, but it's super duper authentic, even with our wins and fails.
But if it's authentic, why have a pre-call and frame what's on and off limit?
Oh, because of respect and consent. Easy, right? So if I have a call with someone and there's no rapport, then the content itself is just gonna fall flat. It's just gonna suck. If there's no chemistry between me and the guest, then it's boring and it's like pulling teeth to have conversation and it's not a good use of anyone's time. And then the other aspect is a lot of people that I work with are in regulated fields. And there are,
Yeah.
or startups, there are things that are always off limits to ask or just make somebody uncomfortable. And when you're trying to build a relationship, you want to make sure that you're aligned on where the boundaries are and then be respectful of them.
Yeah, it depends like who's your ICP, right? Because for example, I work probably 85% of my clients are YC companies, antler companies, Techstar companies, and these young folks are very much open source. They'll just tell it as it is, and I think that's the right way to do PR nowadays. Sort of the Elon way, but smarter, more with more EQ, right? Like with just like more intelligence, because Elon does it in a pretty rough and abrupt way that wrongs a lot of people, but I like the fact of jumping in on a podcast without even knowing the person. I think that's the most authentic, authentic way to do things. It's no filters, it's transparent, and people literally get a conversation on the fly that's authentic. Obviously, you need to do that with people with similar values, people that may have experience and that are good talkers, because you're just gonna bore people out if they're not, and people that have interesting stuff to say, right? So it's like a lot of work on the filtering aspect of it. Tell me a bit more about your ICP. Like, are these people with 1,000 plus employees? Are these CMOs most of the time? Who do you target specifically?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I want to like just readdress that there's things that are mutually exclusive and things that can overlap. You can be authentic and have built the rapport ahead of time. You can have both. And it just depends on, once again, in open source, but open source without violating HIPAA, open source without violating strategic internal knowledge. So, there's both things can be true at once. My ICP for my podcasts are VPs, directors, and CMOs of marketing. And they are typically at small to medium sized business or startups. They are not at large corporations, although some of them have been in the past. Or if they are at a large corporation like Microsoft or Citrix or one of those, they're working within the confines of a certain part of their department where we're addressing how to do things the right way as per our opinion.
Want to come back also on the last point you mentioned about like I think discomfort. I'm pretty sure you didn't frame it that way, but I thought the best convos that I had on this podcast usually is people that I disagree with and that I can just have new neurons created out of the points that they mentioned. So what do you think about like adversity on podcasts? Because I was even thinking, and I'm launching a roundtable of CEOs in which we're disagreeing on some points. For example, those that think that AI is an enhancer, yes, AI is a job taker, and just have people disagree and have a civil, value adding conversation around the table. What do you think about that?
I agree. So it's so funny because I'm agreeing about disagreement being good. Here's the point is that when everyone's in echo chamber, it really fails all of us. It fails our information diet, it fails our goals, it fails our learning. There has to be some pushback and some openness to be wrong or flexible in your thinking in order for us to all benefit from it. We're not all going to agree all the time, and that's good. That is a filter. That should happen. And when you have a lively discussion and you have that back and forth of I see it like this respectfully, I see it like this because of X, Y, and Z, you have a more lively conversation and it's not so dull and boring. Now there's limits within a spectrum, right? Nobody like this isn't Real Housewives of podcasting, although people do pay to like watch that. So there's really just catering to who you want to cater to and what makes sense for your personality and your piece.
Do you think that corporations are mostly good? Like you work with a bunch of them, you're serving some of them yourselves. I tend to avoid corporations because yeah, it doesn't fix my value. Plus, it's very long sell cycle to get to them, and to sell to them is incredibly complicated. It's bureaucratic as well. Why do you actually choose with them? I know it's big packages, but does it fit you at the end of the day?
I actually don't go for corporations mostly. I go for the small to medium-sized businesses. I think when you look at the history of what a corporation is intrinsically on its premise, you have to understand that it has to operate per its legal entity in its own best interest. And that will always come first, no matter what, because it legally is obligated to increase shareholder value. And so that becomes a very tricky game to play. You have to be very up on your legal rights. You have to be very up on your savviness, your contract negotiation, who's the bigger fish. And there's a lot more work and effort that goes into it, especially as a solopreneur or fractional work or vendor. And so it really is, where are your strengths and where are your weaknesses? And do you ascribe to being willing to play that specific game?
Right. And yeah, tell me a bit more about your GTM strategy. Like, how do you get your clients usually? Is it SEO? Is it ads? Like, what do you invest in to get your own clients?
Yeah, for my specific clients, it is a lot of outreach and it is a lot of referral and content. I am a social first marketer. I have had a lot of luck getting business from my strengths, which is writing short form content or video content on social media. That has worked out well for me. Now, is that a repeatable, scalable process? No, not for everybody. Is it scrappy and cheap? Yes. I am a generalist. I don't want to spend my own money on too many things. And so I personally am not going to be spending the same to compete with people with massive budgets like these agencies or these other things. So it's really having that self-awareness and that prioritization of where I can get um the biggest result for the effort I'm willing to put in, or money, time, and effort, and which one of those three am I willing to give up?
Right. And the fractional model, is it paid hourly? Is it paid monthly? Give me a picture of like what it looks like to work with you.
Retainers. Retainers and project based. I do not want to work hourly. There are some specific instances in which I will. The thing about hourly is either my rate is very high per hour, or people start to expect that you do something in a set amount of hours. Now, it'll take me 5 hours, what it'll take a CEO founder like 40 hours to accomplish. I've been doing this for a long time. I am very talented. I know what I'm doing. They don't. Now, should I be punished for doing it faster than them? No, that's ridiculous. That's absurd. But are they going to have sticker shock when I'm like, yo, look, I this is what I can do for you. This is the value you're going to get out of it. It's very hard for them to visualize that value on an hourly metric. Uh, it's just it's such an abstract way of thinking that people struggle with it, and they try to compare apples to oranges.
Right. And what specific problems do you fix? And most of the time, do you fix them yourself or do you outsource to experts like me, let's say in the cold email space?
Yeah, if it's in the cold email space, that is not in my wheelhouse. I would for sure use a vendor. Now the strategies that I choose to do depend heavily on the ICP, the stage of the company, and what the constraints are. So, what's in my skills are not things like coding. I'm not going to build you an app. I'm not going to do all of your sales calls. I'm not going to do a lot of things, because what I am going to do is I am going to help you see the 10,000-foot vision and make it into executionable steps. And then for the parts that are in my wheelhouse, I will do, like, I can do most graphics, I can do podcasting, I can do content, I can do a lot of things. But is it the best use of my time? Is it the best use of your money? And where does it make the most sense? And where are we going to get the biggest result from it? And I think that comes back to that professional self awareness and really taking stock of what you offer and what you don't.
Do you leverage deep researches for your clients? At what spots do we find AI in your tech stack?
Yeah, we find AI throughout my tech stack. I use AI for content creation, anywhere from brainstorming to editing, to reformatting, things like that, or even Grammarly, one of my favorite AI apps, even though you don't think of it as AI. So AI is throughout my tech stack. It's part of the future, and I think that if we ignore it, we're really doing a disservice.
What's your workforce prediction when it comes to AI? Do you think it'll slash a bunch of marketing jobs rather than creating some?
I don't think it's a rather than. I think it's both. I think that there are going to be some very low quality and even mediocre quality things that are just going to no longer be done by people. And I think that that workload is going to shift. Where I'm seeing it in today's labor market is I'm seeing that it's bookends. The pendulum is that there's very low skilled marketing talent that are being used as like entry level interns, button pushers, order takers. And then there's very high level people like me that are like, these are the buttons that need to be pushed. These are the channels and tactics and things that we need to do. You go do them. AI goes and does it. Use this agent, use this workflow, use Zapier for this. So it's that middle ground people that I think are really struggling in today's market. And where I see the future of that going is shifting more towards MOPS, like a marketing operations or a technical. It's become increasingly technically driven. And so really having almost that blend between a customer or a computer science and marketer is where it's headed, in my opinion.
So is that where you are going? How are you equipping yourself? Because you mentioned the 10,000 foot view, which I do agree with. It's about seeing the full picture. And is that picture like APIs and apps connecting stuff together? And is that like where the fractional CMO role is going? What would be the super skills that the fractional CMO of the future would have?
Yeah, they absolutely have to be able to connect APIs and automations. Like that's a non-starter. I think that if you cannot open a PDF and you're trying to be a CMO, you need to reconsider what you're doing. And so
I
like
can't open a PDF. I would never open a PDF, by the way, because it's all crap.
so someone emailed you a form, a letter, a document as a PDF. You would just never open it.
I haven't opened a PDF in 8 months, and when I did the other day, it made my computer crash because it's such old and destitute technology. So we tend to use, yeah, like a more modern apps when it comes to signing contracts. Is what I'm saying. Like everything Adobe is crap. I hate it.
Okay, fair enough.
It's very
Um,
corporate.
it
And
is.
like
It
new
is.
gen apps just don't use that. It's slow. It's and they try to build you at every stage. Like, yo, you want to pay me $25 a month to sign that box? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not here to rip apart Adobe. I resonate with what you're saying, but at the same time, it depends who you're interacting with and what levels of compliance and what levels of different like security risk, whatever who you're playing in the
It's more
sandbox with.
like old mentalities, right? Like
Yeah,
and
but
related to what I was saying, like that most CMOs they're not tech savvy.
no, they're not.
And most fractional CMOs yeah, and interim CMOs, they're not tech savvy, like 95% of them. So I can see the value in hiring you, but I'm just not sure what it takes to have them adapt to that. Most fractional CMOs, as you know, are like boomers, right? So they're on the older side of things. They're experienced, but they're just not tech savvy. So yeah, I do think you're at the right spot at the right time.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that there needs to be that blend of old school and new school, right? Because if you're not able to see the business lessons of what it takes to survive and thrive, you're just gonna mess it up. Like if you can't look at a spreadsheet, whatever format of spreadsheet it is, whatever table, whether you're using Airtable or Google Sheets or Excel, who cares where it is? If you can't look at the numbers and be like, we have a 3 month runway, we are spending this much at this rate, this is the velocity of our pipeline. And if you can't have a conversation about those things and understand the tech stack that's integrating into it, you're just gonna miss the boat. So there's these younger people that are very like fast, quick evolution, fail at all costs. But the thing about fail at all costs is that it costs. And you have to be able to
Right.
balance the cost and the revenue. And so that's where
Yeah.
the boomers excel is they've seen the booms and busts. They've seen, hey, you know what? Like I've seen this change in front of my eyes. Don't do that. That wisdom of messing up is important and it can spare you quite a bit. Now, you got to be able to use technology. Like it's just entry level stakes.
Right. And to the spreadsheet, like younger, more nimble, agile gen like me, I just like feed a screenshot of it to a GPT and let the GPT tell me what it thinks, because it's just way smarter than me. It can see patterns way faster. Obviously, I would have my brain scan it too to make sure that it makes sense. But after some time, once I trust it, I would just like feed that data to it and ask it questions after that, and not pop its context window. Last question for you: do you prescribe podcasts to most of your clients nowadays?
Coming back to your GPT thing, please make sure to validate your data and validate the results of Chat GPT because it will hallucinate. It is not perfect and you cannot trust everything it says. So you do need to be data savvy in that sense to not just let an algorithm of like if they're then thing, it's not perfect yet. As far as do I prescribe podcasting to all of my clients? If it depends on their cash runway, it depends on their needs, it depends on their industry. And as any well-seasoned marketer knows, it just depends. I think it's a great avenue. I enjoy it. I think that there's a ton of value. There's a ton of benefit. But I don't think it's for someone that needs I don't think it's for all industries. I think that there are certain subsects where it just doesn't make sense. These people don't listen to podcasts. They don't want to be on it. They don't like speaking. None of it applies. And then there's other ones where marketers, we just like to yap and it's great for us.
Leanne, thank you for being on. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and you can find me there at Leanne, Leanne Dow, Dow. And then my last name is also hyphenated. So Dow-Weimer, the Weim as in Mary ER is on there in some places. But if you look for Leanne Dow, chick with the big glasses, curly hair, that's me.
All right. So that was Leanne and Charles for another Founder Wisdom